Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of News for Normies, where I bring you news for your average everyday person in a somewhat short time frame. I have a feeling, though, this week's going to be a little bit longer, so buckle up and bear with me. If you appreciate the work that I do here, follow me on the different social medias. I'll have those in the comment down below, or the description down below. And share this with your normie friends because I listen to news all week, and I know a lot of people don't, and I do this for them. So, with that being said, I'm going to quit yapping about that stuff and get right into the news. So, sadly, a church in Wayne, Michigan was the target of an attack by a man who intended to shoot up the church armed with a rifle and a handgun. Thankfully, the shooter was fatally shot himself by the armed security in the church. And sadly, one of the security team members was shot in the leg. However, it was not fatal. He underwent surgery and is expected to have a full recovery. So thank God for that. It is unknown why he decided to do this. It is suspected that he had mental health crisis going on, which kind of obvious, but his mother also went to that same church, so I'm not sure if there was some kind of family tension going on, and he decided to take it out on her and make it everybody else's problem too. So thankfully, nobody from the congregation was killed. Just the one security team member who was shot in the leg, but is expected to recover. So this is just yet another example of why you should be vigilant wherever you go. It doesn't matter if you're going to the grocery store, Walmart, or even attending your place of worship. Now, I would encourage you to carry, if you do go to a place of worship, but check your state's laws on carrying within a church or a place of worship, because every state is a little different. For example, in Ohio, you have to have permission from the church to carry legally. So take that for what it's worth. Moving on, another crazy story related to churches. A man in Arizona was arrested for killing 76-year-old pastor William Shoneman, I think is how you pronounce it, or Pastor Bill as he was known, and nailing him to his bed crucifixion style. The killer planned to kill more religious leaders because he claimed that they are leading people astray. Now, I know I have given my opinions on the modern church. I even did a video titled Problem with the American Church, Part 1, I think. I probably should do a Part 2 of that at some point, but while I agree that the church in today's society has really gone off the rails, this is not how you affect change like that. I would say, especially if you go to a mega church, you find a better church, one that you can actually talk to the pastor after the service is over, and let the numbers speak for themselves. When congregations start to dwindle and church leadership asks why, they should be able to figure out that, maybe the message they're preaching isn't sticking with people anymore. All right. I usually don't get into celebrity news, but this was kind of funny in a dark way, I suppose. Brian Johnson, aka Liver King, no, not the singer from AC/DC, was arrested in Austin, Texas, and was charged with making terroristic threats to Joe Rogan. It seems to me that Johnson, aka Liver King, is also having some sort of mental break and is seeking to take it out on Rogan for talking shit about him on his podcast. If you've followed Rogan and or this guy for a while, you know that the Liver King boasted that he, got his very muscular build from only eating, raw liver and all this stuff and taking some supplements. But Joe Rogan called him out at one point and was like, there's no way. This guy's got to be on some sort of, steroids or testosterone or something like that. And it turns out he was. So, you get somebody that rises to a lot of fame and notoriety and then is taken down. And people tend to not like that so much. So, and also, why would you try to fight Joe Rogan? Like, Liver King made all these videos challenging Joe Rogan to a street fight. It's like, Joe Rogan is a very, very talented jujitsu guy. He's the last person you would want to try to challenge to a street fight. Now, I know Joe Rogan is smarter than that and he wouldn't do it, but also he's got a lot of friends in the UFC, guys who get paid professionally to punch other people in the face. Like, definitely not a fight you would want to pick, but, trying to talk logic into illogical people usually doesn't work. Now, moving on to some pretty cool news. Vice President J.D. Vance gave a speech in Lima, Ohio this week, drawing a crowd of about 1,000 Republican leaders and grassroots supporters from around the state. The vice president spoke about the bombings of Iranian nuclear facilities that happened a week ago today of this recording, which I'll get into toward the end of this video. He laid out what he calls the Trump doctrine for avoiding another decades-long war in the Middle East, and spoke about illegal immigration, border security, and the Trump tariffs. After this, Vice President J.D. Vance took a trip to Jungle Gyms in Fairfield, Ohio, which I am a very big fan of. If you are in the Cincinnati area or you plan to come to the Cincinnati area for a trip, I highly recommend you stop by Jungle Gyms. It is a very, very, very large international grocery store and has products from all over the world. Just their alcohol department alone is about as big as your normal grocery store. So you can find something to wet your whistle with. And even though I'm not affiliated with the company or the podcast, I would highly recommend you grab a 12-pack of Hard AF Seltzer while you're there. It is, in my opinion, one of the best hard seltzers on the market. It is the tastiest. It is an 8% ABV, so be careful with them. And obviously drink responsibly. Don't drink and drive and all that stuff. And if I'm right, Jungle Gyms just added on to their building. So I need to go over there and check out all the new stuff they got going on too. Okay, moving on. So some good news for gun rights. The Ohio state lawmakers are considering the deregulation of suppressors once Congress reclassifies them. The Ohio state government would essentially deregulate suppressors the same as the Hearing Protection Act would if the big beautiful bill passes. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more as well. So I didn't know that Ohio had their own laws on suppressors, but I suppose they do. So it seems like they're just trying to kind of get in line with federal regulation on this one, which I guess in this manner I support. Also, in a rare turn of events, the ATF has now enacted ATF Ruling 2025-1, Importing of Dual-Use Barrels. What this means is that businesses that are legal firearms dealers, or FFLs, Federal Firearms Licensees, can import firearm barrels that can be both for sporting and non-sporting purposes, as long as a sporting configuration is an option. So this is, again, just a win for gun rights, as, people that want to build their own firearms can have more options now. So, more demand on the market means that prices should theoretically come down a little bit if you're deciding to do that. In my opinion, this is a small win, but a win nonetheless, and I never thought that I would see the day that I would be cheering on the ATF for once. Yeah, so good on the ATF for this one. And I have a link for this down below if you want to check that out. I also forgot to mention I have references for almost all of these in today's video, so those will be in the description as well. Now, something related to gun rights that really pisses me off. This just happened like yesterday as I record this. Yesterday as I record this. The Hearing Protection Act and Short Act have been removed from the big beautiful bill by the unelected Senate parliamentarian because they cited the Byrd rule claiming the measures don't fit within budgetary constraints for reconciliation. These provisions will ultimately be removed unless the Senate musters up 60 votes to keep it in. So I would highly recommend you call your senator, or hit him up on X, as I've done, or call Senate Leader John Thune at 202-224-2321 and leave a respectful voicemail stating that you want these provisions left in. I did this last night once I read about this, and I highly encourage you do the same. Again, I will have this in the comment or the description below. I don't know why I keep saying comment. You'd think after doing this for over a year and a half, I'd get my words right. So another win for the legal system, I suppose. The Supreme Court has upheld a ruling stating that Trump can deport illegals to third countries instead of countries of origin, snubbing a ruling from a lower court. So if you don't know what this means, if you have illegal aliens from, say, El Salvador, and their government does not want them back, then the Trump administration can say, all right, we're going to send you to South Sudan. Just get the fuck out of our country. The Supreme Court also ruled that lower courts can no longer use universal injunctions on the administration, making a path more clear to end birthright citizenship. This is also great news for the nation as a whole, because it has been blatantly clear that too many people come to the United States in hopes of having anchor babies and living off of the taxpayer expense for the rest of their lives. Now, to no one's surprise, this came down to a 6-3 ruling, and apparently Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson had a dissenting opinion that was so stupid that the other sitting justices essentially roasted her for it. I would like to see this lady get removed somehow, like expunged from the federal Supreme Court or something. I don't know what the process would be for that, but this lady is borderline retarded. Like, it just blows my mind with how stupid she is. So, again, I don't know how that would happen, but I hope it does sometime soon. Moving on to politicians being absolutely stupid. LaMonica McIver pled not guilty to assaulting a federal agent in May at an ICE facility. If you don't remember, I talked about this a couple weeks ago. McIver and one of the mayors of New Jersey town or whatever went to an ICE detention facility, just to check to see if they were doing things humanely or whatever bullshit they spewed. And she was literally on video shoving and punching an officer. So I don't know how you can even plead not guilty to that, but she did. And hopefully the jury finds her guilty and she faces some jail time, because as the Democrats say, no one is above the law. And speaking of that, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man, may be deported again for his charges on human trafficking. If you don't remember this or don't know what I'm talking about, this guy who is an illegal alien was affiliated with MS-13, was deported earlier this year, and Democrats made a whole stink about how, this Maryland man, he's just a good father, was wrongfully deported. Well, they brought him back, he went on trial, and now they're going to send him back again. So, good riddance, bye-bye, don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. Some more good news. Act Blue, which is a major Democrat fundraising organization, is being probed for fraud by Congress. Hopefully Congress finds all the evidence they need to slap Act Blue with some charges, and we can stop getting so many damn Marxists in our political system. Again, links for this story is down below as well. I encourage you to go read them yourself. Now, I've ragged on Democrats. I got to rag on a Republican here, because I'm going to call balls and strikes, and I'm not going to play favoritism here. Stephen Miller, who is the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, owns roughly $250,000 in stock with a company called Palantir, a software company that holds many contracts with the federal government on ICE centers and detention facilities. This is a major conflict of interest, and Miller should either sell his stock or step down from his position. You know, this almost smells of insider trading, something that all politicians do in Congress, but this guy is not an elected official. He was appointed by the administration. So yeah, this definitely stinks. This ain't right, and I'm surprised that more people aren't talking about this. So before I get into this next one, I'm going to take a sip of coffee. Very fitting for the topic at hand. So, New York City seems to be going into the shitter real quick because they held a primary election, and in the primary they chose radical communist Zohran Momdani over Andrew Cuomo, who was the former governor of the state. This guy claims to be simply a socialist, but the difference between socialism and communism is like whiskey and bourbon. Yes, they're both brown liquors, and, there are some very slight differences, but, they'll both get you drunk. And both socialism and communism, if enacted the way that they want to, will both lead to you dying. I did a video a while back of why communism doesn't work. In short, over the 20th century, upwards of 150 million people died between Russia, China, and I'm blanking on the last one. There's the third one. Anyway, you can go find it on my channel and go watch that, and you'll realize why this guy is a problem. Momdani wants to have free busing across the city, government-ran grocery stores / bodegas, $30 minimum wage, complete defunding of police, and instituting a like social worker program when things are happening, because a guy who's high on crack or meth with a knife is going to respond to a social worker real well. Much higher taxes for the rich, and making New York City a sanctuary city for illegals and the LGBT community, to the point of using force against the federal government in regards to enacting federal immigration law. This will inevitably lead to a major exodus out of New York City, more than what we already see, and breadlines like the Soviet Union had. So good luck, New York. You're hanging on by a thread, and you're about to vote yourself into the ground. And when the shit hits the fan and you, as the individual, leave, also leave your Democrat Party bullshit in New York. We don't want that here in Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, out west. People don't want that in Florida. Leave it there. Don't make the rest of the country like the shithole that you left. On that note, the New York Young Republicans Club is calling for an investigation into Momdani for supporting Hamas. What? Okay, got a weird message on my computer. The New York Young Republicans Club is calling for an investigation into Momdani for supporting Hamas, and also cite the Communist Control Act to potentially revoke his citizenship and potential deportation. I highly doubt this will happen, but we'll see. And staying on the topic of socialist bullshit, Bernie Sanders was recently on Joe Rogan's podcast and continued to spew his communist bullshit too. I listened to the whole thing, and I'll admit it was a hate listen, because I just can't stand Bernie Sanders. While I agree with some of his talking points about healthcare and the wage gaps and stuff like that, I disagree with his proposed solutions. If you really want to if you really want to help the working class, how about you quit taxing the shit out of us? Between federal and state income tax, property tax, sales tax, and every other tax that we have, people are lucky to keep half of their goddamn paycheck. As far as healthcare and education, it's not a human right. You don't have the right to the fruit of someone else's labor without paying for it. That's literally slavery. And I know they would say, oh, we're just going to use taxpayer money to do so. Yeah, We've seen how well that works. Um, I disagree with the healthcare thing because the federal government already has the VA program for veterans who are at this point like 10% of the population of the country, and they can't even get the care that they need. I've talked about this before, but if a veteran is having a bout of depression and they call the VA hotline and say I need to talk to somebody because I'm having thoughts of depression and hurting myself, they'll say, oh, we can schedule in 9 months from now. It's like, okay, well, by that point, I could have just eaten a bullet and, problem solved. Like, that's the way that they would think. Not saying that's the solution you should do, but that's the way that they would think. So if the government can't even take care of 10% of our population, what do you think is going to happen to the other 90% of us? Sanders also brought up, the fact that family farms are really hurting as well. And to that, I would say the government should quit subsidizing farms. Now, that sounds counterintuitive. However, the Fat Electrician, who is very popular on YouTube, did 2 videos that talked about this. One on the government cheese caves, and the other on the California raisin cartel, explaining how government subsidies actually crush family farms. I will link those in the description below as well. I highly encourage you to go listen to them or watch them, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Long story short, government subsidizes the farms, which means that the farmers can't sell their product on the open market and make a profit off of their product, and therefore it keeps farms poor. So it just blows my mind. Anytime the federal government wants to get involved in things to help the people, it's always a bad idea and never works the way it's intended to. Finally, it's highly ironic that a guy who spent his entire adult life in DC taking untold amounts of money from huge corporations and PACs wants to rag on them for donating to politicians in certain races. And he also talks about, housing prices being high and stuff. The dude literally owns like 3 properties and flies around on a private jet while doing his Fight the Oligarchy tour. So if you wanted to help, you'd quit flying on a private jet. You'd sell 2 of the 3 properties, or all 3 of them, and buy a very modest home and live by example. So until you do that, shut the fuck up and spare me with the details. And finally, just so you have a little bit of an idea where I'm coming from on that, according to OpenSecrets.org, Sanders has taken $1,965,000 from PACs and/or employees affiliated with big pharmaceutical companies, and this is also linked below if you want to go see that. He claims that he's never taken money from big PACs, but doubt it. And if it is true that all $1.965 million came from individuals, I can't wrap my head around this one. It blows me away. Oh, and don't forget that Bernie Sanders too claims to only take money from small donations like that, but his daughter's the one that runs all of his political campaigning stuff. And so he's literally taking your money to make his daughter rich. Oh, and he spent his honeymoon in the USSR. So, there you go too. All right. So, the House of Representatives passed the No Tax Dollars for Terrorists Act, H.R. 260, that would stop sending $40 million per week to the Taliban. Don't know why this bill needed to happen in the first place, but now it is up to the Senate to pass it. So again, I would encourage you to put pressure on your senators to pass this bill too. It blows me away that we were fighting the Taliban for so long and now we're funding them? And again, that $40 million per week could go to fixing our roads, building more shit here, paying for school supplies so that teachers don't have to pay for it out of their own pocket. Things like that. But no, we're going to send money to the Taliban to do whatever, or send money to Ukraine to fund the government pensions for their people, yet we've got all our own problems here. Or you know, give money to both Iran and Israel so that way they can keep bombing the shit out of each other, and a war just keeps going on. So, yeah, this kind of shit blows me away. And that's a good segue into the last few topics here. A week ago, from me recording this, bomber pilots flew from America to Iran to bomb 3 nuclear facilities. They flew for over 30 hours straight and completed the mission without stopping and 0 interference. This, despite what you think, this is pretty damn cool that they flew from, an air base, I think it was Whiteman Air Force Base, out in the middle of the Midwest, flew all the way to Iran and back without stopping, and nobody was hurt or killed on both the American side or the Iranian side. Pretty cool that happened. Iran tried to retaliate by launching 14 missiles at American bases. 13 were intercepted, and the last one just kind of flew off into nowhere, and again, nobody was hurt. Since then, Iran and Israel have agreed to a ceasefire that the Trump administration brokered, but despite Trump declaring a ceasefire, both Iran and Israel launched minimal strikes at each other, with a few IDF soldiers being killed. Now, this happened right after Trump declared the ceasefire, so it seemed like they were both trying to get in a couple little jabs again right there at the end. But since that happened, it seems like things have been peaceful, or at least no missiles being launched. When asked about the situation, Trump said, "You have 2 countries who've been fighting for a long time, and they don't know what the fuck they're doing." And I'll put that right here for you to enjoy.
That Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. When I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have 2 countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
And if you still think Israel is controlling America, remember that Trump also told Israel to turn their bomber planes around, and they did. So it really shows you that daddy's in charge. If you get that one, you're paying attention to the news. But, of course, people have to try to undermine the Trump administration in every way possible. People are saying that the strikes were ineffective and didn't completely destroy the facilities, and Iran already moved a large amount of enriched uranium out of the area to do God knows what. Now, if that was the case, I think those trucks would have been intercepted and or destroyed, so I highly doubt that was the case. But, again, I'm just telling you what I know. Also, a report was allegedly leaked from the Pentagon claiming the strikes didn't do much either. Of course, the Trump administration denied this claim, so let's hope they are correct. And also, this information that was leaked about the moving of uranium and the ineffectiveness of the strikes may have been leaked intentionally to see who is trying to undermine the Trump administration from within. Now, as much as I hate CNN, I'm going to link an article from them here just to show you the kind of bullshit they're talking about. And lastly, this one is just funny to me, and I'm going to read it here with you. The LA Sheriff's Department made a post on X apologizing to the victims of the bombings in Iran, but quickly deleted the post after catching a lot of heat for it. And that post says, "Our hearts go out to the victims and families impacted by the recent bombings in Iran. While this tragic event occurred overseas, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is closely monitoring the situation alongside our local, state, and federal partners." They also tweeted, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is closely monitoring the situation overseas alongside our local, state, and federal partners. At the moment, there are no known threats to Los Angeles County. However, out of an abundance of caution, we are increasing patrol checks at places of worship and other sensitive locations throughout the county. Oh. What did I just do? There we go. I hit a button on my keyboard and something weird happened. Anyway, sorry about that. That's all I've got this week. Just stay vigilant. The 4th of July is coming up next week. If you plan on attending a parade or a party or gathering that is a large gathering, keep your head on a swivel. I don't think that anything will happen, but again, you never know. As I stated right up the top, an attack happened at a church because a crazy dude and a pastor was killed in his home. So you never know what'll happen. So take care, stay safe out there, and I'll see y'all next time. Thank you.